Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into some really critical material, the latest June 2026 safety updates from the European Medicines Agency. We've got a packed agenda looking at three very different but absolutely vital medical case studies that show exactly how public health is protected in real time. Now, you might be wondering what actually happens after a medicine is approved. It's super easy to think of drug approval as the finish line, right? But honestly, the second a drug hits pharmacy shelves, that's when a whole new phase of rigorous, real-world monitoring kicks off. And this ongoing monitoring relies on what's called pharmacovigilance. In Europe, the group leading this charge is the PRAC, the Pharmacovigilance Risk Assessment Committee. Think of them as an ever-vigilant medical watchdog. They function like an advanced security system for public health, constantly evaluating real-world data as it comes in. Okay, let's dive right into this. First, we'll look at the drug safety watchdog itself. Then, we'll investigate inconsistent safety signals for Valproate, check out the new restrictions on the IBS-Q vaccine, and cover the strict liver monitoring rules for Tavneos. Finally, we'll hit the big takeaway. Section 1. The Drug Safety Watchdog. Like we mentioned, drug approval is truly just the beginning of the safety journey. See, when a medicine is first approved, it's based on clinical trials. But once millions of people start taking a drug across countless different biological contexts, well, that's when totally new data emerges. The PRAC constantly monitors this incoming data to make sure the benefit-risk balance of these medicines remains safe for the public. And if those scales start to tip, they step in. Section 2. Valproate, an inconsistent signal. So, Valproate. It's a widely used medicine to treat things like epilepsy, bipolar disorder, and sometimes it's even used to prevent migraines. Well, recently, the watchdog was investigating a specific safety signal regarding potential risks to children born to fathers taking this drug. They were looking for any increased risk of neurodevelopmental disorders, or NDDs, so problems with early childhood development like autism, intellectual disabilities, or ADHD. And man, this brilliantly illustrates the clash in data that scientists often have to navigate. Check this out. A 2024 post-authorization safety study looking at registries in Denmark, Norway, and Sweden suggested an increased risk of NDDs in children if the father was treated with Valproate in the 3 months before conception. But then, a 2025 nationwide Danish registry study is published, and it did not suggest an increased risk. The PRAC had to sit down and evaluate these totally conflicting, retrospective observational studies. They had to figure out, is the risk actually from the drug itself, or is it maybe tied to the father's underlying medical conditions? So, how does a watchdog react when things get this uncertain? Let's walk through the timeline. In 2024, when that first study dropped, the PRAC introduced precautionary measures for men taking Valproate. Makes sense, right? Then in 2025, that new Danish study basically threw a wrench in the data. Fast forward to 2026, and the PRAC has reviewed all this inconsistent evidence and basically said, look, a causal link is officially uncertain. And because of that uncertainty, they are holding steady. They're actually waiting for the results of a much larger, specially designed ongoing study that we probably won't see conclude until 2028. So, what does this all mean for patients right now? The bottom line is that the product information is being updated to reflect all this new data. But male patients on Valproate must absolutely continue following those current 2024 precautions. The watchdog doesn't gamble with public health. When the evidence is split like this, the protective measures stay locked in place until the science gives us a definitive answer in 2028. Section 3. Restricting vaccine use. Let's shift gears to the Ixchiq vaccine. This contains a weakened strain of the Chikungunya virus, obviously designed to protect people from Chikungunya disease. But during a routine safety review, the PRAC evaluated some really serious adverse events reported by individuals who received this vaccine. We're talking aseptic meningitis, which is inflammation around the brain and spinal cord, encephalopathy, encephalitis, severe malaise and decreased appetite, and severe confusion, plus the exacerbation of pre-existing diseases. It is a really sobering list, especially since some of these events led to hospitalization and, tragically, even death. Now, what's really interesting here is the demographic breakdown. While these serious, sometimes prolonged chikungunya-like adverse reactions did affect some young, otherwise healthy adults, the data clearly showed that the highest risks were firmly concentrated in specific populations. We're talking about people aged 65 and older, and individuals with multiple underlying chronic medical conditions. To actively rebalance those scales of risk and reward, the watchdog stepped right in. Previously, the Ixchiq vaccine was broadly available to protect anyone 12 years of age and older. But now, It's newly restricted only to individuals 12 and older who are at a high risk of actually getting a chikungunya infection. The major takeaway for anyone considering the Ixchiq vaccine is this pivot in how it's administered. It is now restricted to high-risk individuals 12 and older. Healthcare professionals are getting direct communications reminding them to carefully weigh the potential benefits and risks for these patients. Plus, it is completely contraindicated, meaning do not use it for anyone whose immune system is weakened by disease or medical treatment. The PRAC literally narrowed the target audience just to keep the public safe. Section 4. Tavneos, protecting the liver. Moving on to our final case study, Tavneos, also known as avocopan. It's a treatment for adults dealing with severe, rare inflammatory conditions of the blood vessels. The PRAC's intervention here centers around drug-induced liver injury, specifically a terrifying condition called vanishing bile duct syndrome, or VBDS, where the small bile ducts inside the liver are gradually damaged and essentially just disappear over time. The committee jumped into action after recent reports of serious liver injury in patients taking Tavneos, which unfortunately included some fatal outcomes. To mitigate this severe risk, the PRAC hasn't pulled the drug completely because it does treat very severe blood vessel conditions, but they have mandated a highly procedural, reinforced monitoring protocol. Healthcare providers must follow these steps perfectly. Step 1, test liver function, including hepatic transaminases and total bilirubin, before even starting treatment. Step 2, once treatment starts, monitor the liver at least every 2 weeks for the first 3 months. And Step 3, monitor every 4 weeks for the next 3 months. It's an incredibly rigorous schedule, but it's designed to catch any signs of liver distress immediately. And alongside that testing, they've introduced extremely strict new stopping rules. Treatment has to be immediately and permanently stopped if blood levels of alkaline phosphatase jump over twice the normal limit. Alternatively, treatment must stop instantly if clinical symptoms of VBDS actually appear, things like jaundice or severe itching. The watchdog is enforcing these boundaries to mitigate life-threatening risks. So, what's the bottom line for Tavneos patients and their doctors? Well, strict liver monitoring and immediate stopping rules are now completely mandated. A direct healthcare professional communication has been sent out outlining all of this. These aren't just suggestions, they are the absolute law of the land when prescribing this medication now. Section 5. The big takeaway. Let's see how all this builds together. If there is one thing you take away from this explainer today, let it be this. Medical approval is not the finish line. It's an ongoing journey of safety monitoring. Whether it's holding steady on precautions for Valproate, restricting who gets the Ixchiq vaccine, or adding strict liver rules to Tavneos, the PRAC is always working in the background. I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. How does knowing there's a constant medical watchdog out there change your perspective on drug safety? To me, it's pretty reassuring. It shows that science isn't just static. It adapts, and it constantly recalibrates to protect us. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions and keep learning. Catch you next time.